Wahai putera wujud semula daku di bumiku. Wahai putera wujud semula daku di bumiku. Supaya di syurgaku aku dapat ingat kau, supaya di syurgaku aku dapat ingat kau. Demikianlah maka diriku dan dirimu akan dihiburkan. Demikianlah mata diriku dan dirimu akan dihiburkan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Liuchi and Ms. Liuchi. It is my absolute honor tonight to introduce to you Ms. Sima Mobini. I usually do not chair the meeting, but tonight I just wanted to be here to welcome Sima from the bottom of my heart because of everything that she does for this world, for the children, and particularly for the girls. As a mother, I would thank you for everything you've been doing for the longest time. Sima is an engineer by profession, a wife, mother, and a community builder. Not only a community close by or just a little further away, but a community builder who works at the level of the world. For boys, for girls, for children, and for every race, nationality, religion, and you just name it. Sima joined Mona Foundation in 2003 and has been working hard in the field of social and economic development as a volunteer ever since. What a bounty, what a gift. As I was looking at your Sima Jun at the site you have for Mona Foundation, it brought tears to my eyes. I would encourage the friends to check that Mona Foundation site. It's beautiful. Thank you very much, Sima Jun, for accepting to be with us tonight. And I really appreciate your time. I know you were in Europe when you accepted to join us tonight, and you did everything last minute in order to accommodate us. I really appreciate it. With much love, I would like to ask you to go ahead and by the way, the site is on the Mona Foundation on the chat. Please, over to you.
Well, I want to thank you, Furuz John, and everybody else who showed up. I remember you and I talked many years ago on a radio program you had and about Mona Foundation, and it was a great experience. Now, I just want to start with a little bit of background. First of all, when I was traveling the last couple of weeks, because I'm from Iran, every guide we had was asking us about Iran. And naturally, I said, I'm a Baha'i. So we started, my husband and I talked about some of the principles of Baha'i faith with one of the guides. And his response was very interesting. He says, oh, this is the religion of common sense. And I thought, yes, of course, in 2021, it is common sense. Many of the teachings, equality of men and women, although still in some parts of the world it is not acknowledged, but many other principles of the Baha'i faith are common sense to many people. So one of the teachings that is really common sense for me is the fact that with evolution of humanity, everything changes. So the science changes. The science of now is not the science of 2,000 years ago or even 150 years ago. The social sciences have changed. And naturally, what makes sense to me is that, well, religious teachings, mainly the social teachings, also have to change. I mean, it makes sense, right? I don't know what others think. I am a very scientific person, and it makes sense to me that even though the spiritual teachings of all religions are the same and they're eternal in the past, eternal in the future, the social teachings change. And there is a metaphor that is used in the Baha'i faith. Many people know that, if you believe in God, that's number one, and you think of God as this loving parent, would this loving parent want to educate his or her children at the level of their understanding? Let's say we are in 6th grade, would our parents want us to still be in 1st grade or learn the items in 1st grade? He or she knows that we already know that stuff. So we are educated with new material. So that is the same with social teachings. So with this kind of background, I just want to go back historically about how development has been, how people in the world have even thought of the issue of development. Many of us, all of us know that the world has been based on hierarchies throughout history. Women were not as smart as men. People of color, even in the United States where I live, were considered as 3/5 of a human being. They were not as smart. And, it just goes on and on. The clergy always knows best. The layperson like you and me, historically, because we couldn't read and write, we just followed whatever they said. And of course, with that type of mentality, development, which at least I know about the past 200-300 years, or maybe a little more, development in the world has had this hierarchical attitude also, from top down, meaning the people of the West the white people always thought, oh, we know better, we are the most progressive, we have advanced. So we go, and sometimes with great intentions, and sometimes with ulterior motives, they went to other countries under the name of development, that we are going to develop these people to be just like us, not considering that, well, you know, in the other cultures, they know what is best for their culture. There is a wisdom in every culture, but historically, development has just been like, I'm going to make you like me because this is the best way. Now, what is different in the Baha'i concept of development, naturally, because religion has also evolved based on our evolution, is that one of the main teachings of Baha'i faith is that all human beings are created noble, regardless of our background, regardless of our color, our nationality, ethnicity, gender. We are all clean mirrors when we are born. And of course, through education when we are children, and then as we grow older, through our own efforts, we try to keep this mirror polished and clean. So the concept of development in Baha'i faith is based on nobility of all human beings. That is why, and I, as Furuz Jun mentioned, I have worked with the Mona Foundation for almost 20 years. And of course, I've learned a lot. I've pretty much visited all the projects. I wouldn't say all, but I would say 90% of the projects that Mona Foundation partners with. And our concept, because we are a Baha'i-inspired organization, although we are not a Baha'i organization, meaning that we are not under the institutions of Baha'i faith, but for example, regarding the nobility of all human beings, regarding the equality of men and women, regarding education, universal education, importance of education of women, the elimination of extremes of wealth and poverty, these are they kind of build our philosophy. We support projects that some of them are Baha'i inspired, some of them are not. Our board of directors is made of people of all sorts of background, all religions, from various countries, from various colors, and our staff the same way. So I just need to look at my notes so that I don't forget what I want to say. So now, regarding this attitude that has existed in the past, well, what I have to say is that based on the inspirations from the Baha'i teachings, we do not create any projects, Mona Foundation, and this is based on the Baha'i concepts. Foreigners, whenever they go and create a project in a different countries, number one, because they don't know about the culture. Number two, they do not stay forever. Number three, they don't have this support of the local people. These projects, experience has shown that they kind of are not sustainable. They die off after the foreigners leave. And there are many, many examples of that. So what the idea is that with trust, that the people in each culture, in each country, they know what is best for their people, they know the culture. We find projects that have started from the grassroots. So that's another concept, not top down, but bottom up. Many of the projects we partner with have started from the garage of someone's home. There are just different stories about how they have been initiated. So we find these projects and we start partnering with them. We never interfere with their curriculum. Like, oh, this is how we do it in the US. We don't do that. We just leave it up to the people in the field, and they do whatever it is, and they're doing a great job. And of course, there is a check and balance and being accountable for, whatever they claim to do. So that is one concept, bottom up, starting from the grassroots. Now, as Furuzjun mentioned, one of the principles that is also used in the Mona Foundation is gender equity. And we all know, it is obvious in 2021 that, well, first of all, women make 50% of society. And if they are not educated, that will kind of add up and you will have uneducated children. So the importance of education of women, not only that, but also the importance of men and boys understanding the equality of men and women is one of the main principles inspired by the Baha'i faith that all these projects use in running and operating the projects. And of course, one last thing is that, again, in the view of Baha'i faith, education is not just material education or going to school, which is what we see actually in many Western countries, many parts of the world, that people just go to school with the hope of, oh, I'm going to advance myself. I've seen this in the US, at least, I'm going to become a billionaire, and who cares about the rest, which is the attitude that we see in the world, not everywhere, but some. So the projects that we partner with, they instill this attitude of service to community, meaning that I'm going to help myself advance, but then there's this mentality that I'm gonna serve my community and encourage others to serve community. So service also is a very big aspect of all the projects that we support. So with that, I know this may be the shortest, I don't know, I didn't even ask you, Furzandejun, how long you want the fireside to be, but this was a very short narrative of where we come from, what my understanding of Baha'i development is. And if people have questions, I'm, of course, happy to answer.
Sima, is it possible for me to say the story of one of these developing projects and what you've seen firsthand, and the transformation that happened? So can you just give us a picture of that, please? You have till 8 o'clock our time, so you have about half an hour. Yeah. If not, We can
No,
all.
no, actually, there are so many stories. And, the reason I made it short was that I just wanted to kind of give the gist of what development in the eyes of Baha'i faith, at least what my understanding is, to give that. But there are so many stories, and I will start, let me think, because I've visited many of these projects. There are a couple of projects that we support in India. One is Baha'i inspired, the other one is not. And actually the one that is not Baha'i inspired is probably the one project, and both of these projects mainly serve women. The one that is not Baha'i inspired, it's called Study Hall Foundation. And it was founded by this amazing Indian woman. Her name is Dr. Urvashi Sani. And I won't tell you the story of her life, which even though she came from a middle-class family, it just shows the discrimination from her own educated family about educating their daughter versus their sons. So I won't give you that. You can probably go and find that somewhere in Mona Foundation's website. But this woman, first of all, despite the limitations she had, she got her PhD in education and started this organization that supports the poorest of the poor in India. We probably all know about the issue of caste. So these are like many of the girls that this project serves come from the lowest of the lowest castes. Not even in the villages, but in tribal areas. And what this project does in areas where women are nothing, girls, there are stories, videos you can go see that when, let's say, a girl, when parents don't have enough money, they naturally, historically, they prefer to educate their sons. So the girl ends up just not going to school, cleaning the house, taking care of these kinds of things. If the girl gets sick, they don't take her to the doctor because, oh, her life doesn't matter. And of course, we all know about the issue of child marriage. So this wonderful woman, Urvashi Sani, not only teaches these girls to, read and write and become educated, but also tells them about their rights, that they are equal human beings, they're noble human beings. And these girls, in turn, go and talk to their parents and their brothers and sisters about, that we are equal. And this has almost become like a movement in India. This Urvashi Sani has so many awards from like Clinton Foundation. She's amazing. So, and I don't want to give numbers, but I think there are like 200 to 300,000 people under the umbrella of this organization. And I saw it firsthand. Another project, which is a smaller project, it is called, oh my God, I should, geez, I blank out, I'm so sorry. Oh God, in Indore, India, there is a project that also deals with tribal women. Please go and look it up. I need to go find it. I visited it 10 years ago. Barley, there you go. Barley Institute for Development of Rural Women. And barley in the local language in Indore means the column that keeps the house standing. And that is in reference to woman, meaning it is the woman that keeps the house standing. So what happens, girls from, again, the poorest tribal areas who mostly do not know how to read and write, they come to Barley and they stay there for 6 months, and 6 months to a year. So they learn how to read and write, and then they also learn mostly to sew. They also learn how to use the computer. They learn how to build solar panels for cooking, you name it. And many of these girls, so this is a story, many of these girls come because of the conditions they have been raised in. They do not even raise their heads. They do not talk. And then after the 6 months, again, they learn to have self-esteem. They learn how to read and write. They learn service to their communities. They learn to be agents of change for their communities when they go back. And then and many of these girls, an example is a girl, this is like, you think the lowest of the low caste, but also a girl who could not walk. So she just could not walk. Because of a disease she had in her childhood. So like, what do you think the future of such a girl in a tribal area is? She couldn't even get married. She came to Barley, and then she went, and Barley, with the help of Mona Foundation, got her a motor scooter where she could go around. And then she started her sewing shop. And her story is on our website. And she employed other women in her shop. And recently, again, Mona Foundation helped her buy a little building where she can have her sewing shop. And her business is booming. She has become an example for the other women in her little tribal village. And she has earned the respect of many people in her community. So these are a couple of stories I could think of, but there are more. I have to think. I know of another one offhand, but I really would love to hear if people have questions.
Thank you so much, Sima. I think we will welcome the other story, but meanwhile, I'll ask the friends, if anyone has a question, please go ahead and unmute yourselves. Actually, something comes to my mind that I would like to ask you, Sima. Does Mona Foundation do this in order to teach the Baha'i faith? Is this, could you explain that?
That's a great question, and I should have mentioned it. So, when I was talking about historical ways of development, and that sometimes there were ulterior motives, and I'm sure many of you have heard that, like, historically there was this concept called doctrine of discovery, which the Catholic Church, under the, I don't want to say pretense, but under the flag of propagating Catholic Church, allowed people to go to many countries in Africa, in the Middle East, in Latin America. And they did start, and many of them very successful, they did start schools, but the main purpose was, teaching and converting people, sometimes by force, unfortunately. And then I actually have a great story, but I will finish that. It is very important in the concept of development in Baha'i faith. The main goal is promoting education, educating people, but not changing anything. So in many, not many, I would say, in all the projects that we support, and of course, only some of them are Baha'i inspired, the moral teachings that are universal to all religions, and now even to people who don't have religions, are taught. But there is never, and we are strictly, because there is an organization in the Baha'i World Center. It used to be called Office of Socioeconomic Development. Now it's called Baha'i International Development Organization. And it's called BIDO. So that is one of the main instructions, that the purpose of a Baha'i-inspired organization, nonprofit organization, is not to convert people. If you want to teach the Baha'i faith, you talk to people, you have firesides, you have all sorts of venues that people can learn about the Baha'i faith. But the purpose of socioeconomic projects initiated by Baha'is, inspired by the teachings of Baha'i faith, is not teaching the Baha'i faith. If it is okay, I want to tell you a story that came to my mind.
Please.
So many years ago, probably towards the beginning when I had gotten involved with Mona Foundation, we visited a project in the Nobe Bugle indigenous area of Panama. This is an indigenous group that lives very far. They call it the Cherokee Mountains. At the first time I went there, there was not even a road to the Nobe area. And Mona Foundation had started supporting an educational project that the Nobe people had started there. And so we went for a visit to consult. And then one of the things, and these people, they're so far that many of them don't even speak Spanish. They have their own Nobe language. So we talked through 2 translators, from Nobe to Spanish to English. So one of the things that they told us, and the women wear these beautiful outfits, indigenous, gorgeous outfits. And they told us that people came to us, they said, we will build a school for you, but you have to change the way you dress. You have to wear Western uniforms. And these are such proud, wise people. They said, no, thank you. We don't want you to help us. We don't want you to build us a school. So that is an example. And they shared that with us. And the fact that they trusted Mona Foundation was with, building, helping them with some of the projects they had, was that they knew that was not our intention, to change their ways. So that was a great question, Firuzjan. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have 2 questions in chat. One is Yusha, our dearest friend who joined us for the first time tonight, is asking, are there branches of the Mona Foundation in other countries? For PS, I promise also to look up your website, of course. So Yusha, you're always more than welcome to speak yourself. Thank you.
Thank you very much. No, nothing really more. I'm so excited actually to hear from someone who is involved with the Mona Foundation, which I've been hearing about for so many years. So it's a real honor, Sima, that you are presenting your stories, which are so inspiring. In Malaysia, thank you, Sima, thank you. In Malaysia, which is my country of origin, though I now live in Melbourne, and Nardis can vouch for this. She's also been in Malaysia for the last, how many years, Nardis? 40-something years, maybe? During my recent visit back to Kuala Lumpur, I was so inspired with the work that some of the Baha'i groups are doing, very much along the lines of what you have talked about, Sima, that individual initiatives, just roping in like-minded people. So from what I gather, this is probably the line of work that, when you said grassroots up, that makes a lot of sense. I think growing up, we all went to schools. Don't forget that Malaysia was once Malaya. Sorry if I'm taking up too much of the time. I'll be quick. And Malaya was colonized by the British. So all of us benefited from a very Western, English education. And it was the done thing. And we're very happy to go to English schools. And now I realize, it was marvelous. I don't really, there's no criticism involved here at all, but it was very much, the syllabus was, looking back, how on earth were we doing Wordsworth and Shakespeare and so many things in literature when, we possibly overlooked Malaysian history and education. We are talking a long time ago. So this is not a new thing, I suppose. It's the history of colonization, yes, which is not the word we want to use in the Baha'i concept, but I was somehow drawn to that experience. So I'm so very happy that, really our aim should be to get our neighborhoods involved and to see how best to serve them and what the needs are locally. Thank you.
Yeah, that's so well said. Thank you. And you're right that, unfortunately, our history is full of examples like Malaysia. Again, this attitude of top down and learn whatever I think is best for you and not respecting or valuing the culture. Whereas again, another Baha'i principle of, many of us have heard that, we are flowers of one garden, and it is wonderful to appreciate these different smells and colors. So it is sad to know that so many cultures have been kind of just been eliminated from history because people did not learn about their own cultures. You had asked whether in the chat whether Mona has branches. A few Canadian friends who were supporters, who have been supporters of Mona Foundation, they started their own group, and they actually became registered in Canada, I hear that they're now working on becoming, right now they're still working with Mona Foundation and supporting the projects that Mona Foundation supports, but they're in the process of becoming a completely separate organization, although our connection and collaboration will continue. But they're still working with Mona. So, but not in other countries. But we support, again, I encourage you to go support the projects. The projects are in so many different countries, and we are adding one by one, you know, so, and in definitely in all the continents of the world. And I know Mrs. Ziai had asked about, or should I go to Mrs. Ziai's question?
Yeah, Dr. Ziai asked about raising fund. Go ahead, please.
So, you know, Mona Foundation is rather a small organization when you compare it to, let's say, Red Cross, you know, of course. It started 23 years ago. When I joined, it was basically the board of directors, and we just did all the work ourselves. And now, you know, we have a staff of 4 people. So we are still small. The way we raise funds is by just, you know, through mouth, you know, like people go and visit the website or come. We do have fundraisers, not everywhere in the US, like wherever there are board members, we have had fundraisers. Like I live in California, so every year we have one in, well, actually 2 in Southern California. The hub or the main office of Mona Foundation is Seattle. So there are fundraisings there. And also, again, through the word of mouth, there have been some wonderful supporters who have just, you know, they just love the idea. And I just want to also add this in relation to what Usha said, that this idea of grassroots initiatives is something that other nonprofits are starting to think about. So in the past few years, we have been asked to actually talk to other nonprofits about the concept that, you know, hey, you Americans, you Canadians, you don't need, they know what is best for them. You don't need to go start projects. They know. So many, as I said, with evolution of humanity, other organizations are realizing this, you know, this respect to different cultures. So yeah, that's basically how we raise funds. You can go to our website and just, you know, if your heart is moved, you can like donate on a monthly basis, any way you like. So that's basically it. Nothing very extravagant.
The story of Mona's life is so heart-rending. She was only 16 when she was hanged, and this institution is after her name, actually, and it's so good that we have this under her name because of her sacrifice. And the story of her life is really inspiring.
Thank you for mentioning that, Dr. Ziai. Again, I should have said that. Sometimes we kind of assume people know, but not necessarily. And every time I start talking about Mona, I choke up, I start crying. And actually, the most recent trip I had was to Colombia, which another amazing Baha'i-inspired organization, probably the oldest Baha'i-inspired organization called Fundaek, was founded in Colombia. And every time I go to any of the projects and I see the name of Mona Foundation, all I think of is, look, this 17-year-old girl lost her life. And look at so many 100,000 people getting educated in her name, in her memory. And of course, her story is on our website. She is our inspiration. Thank you for mentioning that, Dr. Zia.
You know, Sima Jun, I think it's very timely to talk about the contribution of women and also what happened to Mona, because as we speak, atrocities are happening in my country and little girls are being killed because they don't want to obey certain laws that might not be applicable anymore. And I think to know that in another part of the world, people are working to create women who would be independent, who would be leaders, who would be educated. It's very heartwarming. The contrast is amazing.
Yes, yes. And you know what is really beautiful, well, both sad and beautiful, is that when Mona was killed 2 years ago, no one found out about it except for the Baha'is. And many other women who were very young, they also were killed by the government. Mona was killed mainly because she wanted to educate children. And when you see that people are so concerned, and we should be, as young lives are lost right now, unfortunately, innocent. I even heard a 7-year-old, a 12-year-old in Iran right now. You think, I wish people had paid attention to people like Mona when they were killed. You know, maybe we wouldn't have gotten here. And this is only about one country. There are, as I mentioned, there are many countries where the lives of women are really sad. You know, second-class citizens.
Mm.
So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Virasamy, you don't have a question. We haven't seen you for a long time. Glad to see you.
Thank you, Alapa. Just listening to your talk, and I was really getting the message. Yes, Mona. Yes, I knew Mona from 1983. Oh yeah, it's a long time. But now we have the foundation there. I do follow all this. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Mr. Thorais, thank you for being here. Is there any question? And Saida writes, thank you for the wonderful subject and the talk. Friends, the floor is open. Should there be any questions? You know, Sima Jun, we have reached to a threshold in the history of humankind that we cannot oversee our women, our girls, only because they are women.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, there are countries who look at women as such, the way that you explained. But I think the future is very bright, even for women who are killed in the streets. But because the spirit of the age is the education of women, is the empowerment of women, is the women who will move forward and bring their families together. I think what you're doing is so praiseworthy and wonderful. I don't know how to thank you.
Oh, thank you. I want to thank you. I also want to add that it is not just women, as I mentioned earlier. It is as important or even more important to educate boys from childhood about equality of genders. And in many countries, unfortunately, this attitude is taught from one generation to the next. Again, I mentioned India, that the people who treat women the worst, who are they? They're their mother-in-laws. They're their mothers. Because they say, well, I went through this. I lived with this. Why should you be any different? And then they keep treating their boys better. They keep teaching their boys that you're more important. So I cannot emphasize the importance of educating boys, even in our own families. Like, I'm from Iran, and in many countries, including Iran, this patriarchal family still exists, right? The boy, if I don't have a boy, I have to have a boy. Or the boy will always be your son, but the daughter will marry someone. Like, these are things that some of us may have heard when we were kids. Like, he will be the supporter of the family. But think of the mentality that Barley used. The woman is the column that keeps the house. It doesn't let it fall. So we need to teach our boys that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Sima Jun, when we finish our fireside, we usually have a short devotional, and the friends pray for the world, pray for hopefully Mona Foundation, and if you would agree, we would ask the friends to start with their prayers. I would like to thank you so very much for accepting to be here tonight, so close to your trip to Spain. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for the opportunity, and great to meet some friends from Canada. Dr. Ziai, my husband, is in the same committee as your husband, and we have met. So that's, I see some faces I know here, and it is wonderful to see all of you.
I'm wondering if one of the friends could start with a prayer for humanity. Mr. Perimal, I've been asking you to unmute. So Mr. Perimal, can you start with a prayer for humanity.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Perimal is connected to us via where? Mr. Perimal, you tell us.
Okay. Before I start the prayer, I'm from Malaysia, but now residing in Australia.
Astray. Okay.
Very nice talk, Sima. Thank you so much. It's very heartbreaking. My early days when the Universal House of Justice introduced the SEED project, Social, Economic and Development and Education project, myself and my wife moved to a remote village in Malaysia, which don't have road, water, and electricity. And we developed this community. We never taught them about the faith, but they on their own knew about the Baha'i faith. This whole community is a Muslim community. After developing this village, after staying there for 10 years, we moved to our original place. When we moved to this village, there were no children have been educated. They have never gone to above primary school. After we stayed there for 10 years, the children acquired education and now they are better off. They were all living in shelters. Now they are living in a very good built up houses. And I wrote to the government and have the road facilities, brought in water supply and electricity. And my friend here, my brother here, Liu Chi Sing is here. He is also the same, husband and wife moved to a very remote place in the mountainous areas in Malaya, Peninsula Malaya. They are very quiet here. They have done a great job. Their whole life they have sacrificed and stayed there and served the indigenous community there. Thank you so much. It's very heartbreaking. I will say the prayer.
Thank you, Mr. Perimal. Thank you so much.
Let's pray. O thou kind Lord, thou hast created all humanity from the same stock. Thou hast decreed that all shall belong to the same household. In thy holy presence, they are all thy servants, and all mankind are sheltered beneath thy tabernacle. All have gathered together at thy table of bounty. All are illumined through the light of thy providence. O God, thou art kind to all. Thou hast provided for all. Thou shelter all. Conferest life upon all. Thou hast endowed each and all with talents and faculties, and all are submerged in the ocean of thy mercy. O thou kind Lord, unite all. Let the religions agree and make the nations one, so that they may see each other as one family and the whole earth as one home. May they all live together in perfect harmony. O God, raise aloft the banner of the oneness of mankind. O God, Establish the most great peace. Cement thou, O God, the hearts together. O thou kind Father, God, gladden our hearts through the fragrance of thy love. Brighten our eyes through the light of thy guidance. Delight our ears with the melody of thy word, and shelter us all in the stronghold of thy providence. Thou art the mighty and powerful. Thou art the forgiving, and thou art the one who overlooks the shortcomings of all mankind. Abdul Baha.
If anyone else would like to say a prayer, it doesn't need to be a Baha'i prayer. Any prayer would do. Please, friends, join in.
I will say a prayer in Indonesian language for unity. Ya Tuhanku, ya Tuhanku, persatukanlah hati hamba-hambamu dan perlihatkanlah kepada mereka maksudmu yang agung. Semoga mereka itu mentaati perintah-perintahmu dan tunduk pada hukummu. Tolonglah mereka itu ya Tuhan dalam usaha mereka dan karuniailah mereka itu kekuatan untuk mengabdi kepadamu. Ya Tuhan, janganlah Engkau biarkan mereka itu, tetapi bimbinglah langkah-langkah mereka dengan cahaya pengetahuan-Mu dan riangkanlah hati mereka dengan kasih sayang-Mu. Sesungguhnya Engkau penolong dan Tuhan mereka itu.
I'd like to say a prayer for tests and difficulties. O thou who thirst are a healing medicine, to such as are nigh unto thee, whose sword is the ardent desire of all them that love thee, whose dart is the dearest wish of those hearts that yearn after thee, whose decree is the sole hope of them that have recognized thy truth. I implore thee by thy divine sweetness and by the splendors of the glory of thy face, to send down upon us from thy retreats on high that which will enable us to draw nigh unto thee. Set then our feet firm, O my God, in thy cause, and enlighten our hearts with the effulgence of thy knowledge, and illumine our breast with the brightness of thy names. Baha'u'llah.
Vivian, would you like to say anything or say a prayer or give us a smile?
Oh, you're so sweet. Well, I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be meeting all these wonderful people. Now, I don't have a prayer with me. I was thinking maybe another time I can say one in French or
Please.
represent my ancestors or Akkadian.
That would be wonderful.
Thank you for asking.
You're welcome.
Next time.
Next time.
I am he, O my Lord, that has set his face toward thee.
Mr. Veerasamy, I think we have a bit of a difficulty with your mic.
Yes, okay. That's right. I pray thee that thou wilt not suffer me to turn away disappointment from the door of thy mercy, nor abandon me to such of thy creatures as have repudiated thy code. I am, O my God, thy servant and the son of the servant. I have recognized thy truth in thy days and have directed my step toward the shores of the oneness, confessing the singleness, acknowledge thy unity and hoping for thy forgiveness and pardon. Powerful art thou to do what thou willest. No God is there beside thee. They all glories, the ever forgiven. Baha'u'llah.
Thank you. Zari Khanum, please.
I am he, O my Lord, that hath set his face toward thee and fixed his hope on the wonders of thy grace and the revolution of thy bounty. I pray thee that thou will not suffer me to turn away disappointment from the door of thy mercy, nor abandon me to such of thy creatures as have repudiated thy code. I am, O my God, thy servant and the son of thy servant, and I have recognized thy truth in thy days, and have directed my steps toward the shores of the oneness, confessions thy singleness, acknowledge thy unity and hoping for thy forgiveness and pardon. Powerful art thou to do what thou willest. No God is there beside thee, the all glorious, the ever forgiven. Baha'u'llah.
Thank you. Simin Khanum.
Oh God, we are weak, give us strength. We are poor, bestow upon us thine illimitable treasures. We are sick, grant us thy divine healing. We are powerless, give us of thy heavenly power. O Lord, make us useful in this world. Free us from the condition of self and desire. O Lord, make us firm in thy love and cause us to be loving toward the whole of mankind. Conform us in service to the world of humanity, so that we may become the servants of thy servants, that we may love all thy creatures and become compassionate to all thy people. O Lord, thou art the Almighty, thou art the merciful, thou art the forgiver, thou art the omnipotent. Abdul Baha. Thank you.
Thank you.
Say God sufficeth, all things above all things, and nothing in the heaven or the earth, but God suffices. Verily, he is in himself the knower, sustainer, the omnipotent. Say God suffices, all things above all things, and nothing in the heaven or the earth, but God suffices. Verily, he is in himself the knower, sustainer, the omnipotent.
Mr. Tahir Zadeh, go ahead, please.
From the hidden words of Baha'u'llah. O son of being, O son of being, with the hands of power I made thee, and with the fingers of strength I created thee, and within thee have I placed the essence of my light. Be thou content with it, and seek naught else, for my work is perfect, and my command is binding. Question it not, nor have a doubt thereof. O son of spirit, I created thee rich. Why dost thou bring thyself down to poverty? Noble I made thee. Wherewith dost thou abase thyself? Out of the essence of knowledge I gave thee being. Why seekest thou enlightenment from anyone beside me? Out of the clay of love, out of the clay of love I molded thee. How dost thou busy thyself with another? Turn thy sight unto thyself, that thou mayest find me standing within thee, mighty, powerful, and self-subsisting. O Son of Man, thou art my dominion, and my dominion perisheth not. Wherefore fearest thou thy perishing? Thou art my light, and my light shall never be extinguished. Why dost thou dread extinction? Thou art my glory, and my glory fadeth not. Thou art my robe, and my robe shall never be outworn. Abide then in thy love for me, that thou mayest find me in the realm of glory.
Thank you. Thank you, friends. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Sima June. What an honor. Thank you. We need to ask you to join us again in another setting. And we really, really appreciate it. People are sending hearts, and I know these are for you, not for me.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It was really wonderful to be here. It is my honor, and glad to see so many beautiful faces, and the hearts are all yours, I'm sure. So thank you.
Thank you. The friend, tomorrow, Friday night, there is a meeting of Dr. Sabetan. I put my email address in case you would like to contact me. I will let you know about the details. Thank you, everyone. Really, really appreciate it. See you next week, the same place, the same time, a better Zoom link. Much love. Take care. Bye, Gibby. Love you, love you, love you. See you, Mr. Liuchi. How wonderful, Nargis Khanum, Mr. Prima. Everybody, thank you, thank you. Take care. See you next week.
Thank
Bye.
you, everyone.
So much. Bye.
Thank you.
Merci.